And he grabbed, when I opened the door to the truck, he grabbed the door and he pushed it all the way open and he grabbed the frame on the other side and he's leaning into me and he's so angry. He's all red and his veins are sticking out and he's spitting, and he was so close to me that spit is getting on my face. And he's telling me all these things, and he would only let go long enough to point at me again. I finally got myself together well enough to where I could call my husband, and I wanted to tell him what happened, and I wanted him to protect me, and I wanted him to tell me what to do and tell me that I was going to be okay. And he said, Fred just called. And I said, what? Did he tell you what happened? And he said, yeah. He told me that you lost your biggest client today and you were so upset that he had to walk you outside and calm you down. And that he thought that I should be ready to take you to the hospital and check you in because you were not in a state of mind to be at home or with your kids or something like that. And I said, what are you talking about? What kind of hospital are you talking about? And he said, I think we might need to have you assessed.
Melanie Contreras serves as a guiding light for those seeking spiritual and personal growth. Hailing from Harlingen, Texas, Melanie encountered a life-altering spiritual awakening in 1983, which led her to dedicate her life to guiding others. A graduate of Texas Bible Institute and an ordained minister with Christ for the Nations, she has imparted wisdom on godly communication and character development across various esteemed institutions. A certified life coach and specialist in freedom, inner healing, and relationship dynamics, Pastor Melanie also graces the airwaves as a television and radio personality. Her commitment extends globally, leading mission trips and fostering community service. She is the visionary behind Life Empowered Ministries International and Communication Matters. As a devoted mother and a revered community figure in the DFW area, Pastor Melanie continues her mission to empower individuals through her teachings and now through her written word in Shadows Under the Light, When Trust is Violated. Book overview: Shifting Shadows, When Trust is Betrayed, is Pastor Melanie's profound exploration into the mechanisms of abuse and the pathways to liberation. Drawing from her rich well of knowledge, the book is a testament to her unwavering commitment to healing and empowerment. A Nightmare in the Name of Counseling, the story of Melanie Contreras and Daystar TV's disturbing allegiances. She trusted them. She believed they would help. She thought their guidance was rooted in wisdom and faith. But instead of healing, Melanie Contreras found herself ensnared in a twisted web of control, secrecy, and betrayal. Imagine reaching out for counseling in the darkest season of your life, only to realize that those offering help were, in reality, orchestrating your downfall. This is a chilling reality Melanie faced when she sought guidance from Fred and Anna Kendall, only to be subjected to manipulation, abuse, and eventual exile from the very community she had once called home. And behind the scenes, pulling the strings, was none other than Daystar TV president Joni Lamb. For years, Melanie had been a familiar face on Joni Lamb's Table Talk program and had worked closely with the Kendall's ministry, Life Languages. She knew they weren't licensed counselors, but she trusted them. That trust would be shattered as their counseling sessions spiraled into a nightmare of financial control, emotional manipulation, and even threats to her personal safety. And when she dared to question their methods, she was met with silence from both the Kendalls and Joni Lamb. How does a Christian media empire become complicit in such egregious misuse of spiritual authority? How could trusted figures in faith-based media turn a blind eye, or worse, participate in the very abuse they claim to condemn? Melanie's story is not just a personal ordeal. It's an exposure to a system that enables and perpetuates harm under the guise of guidance. At first, Melanie was eager to participate in Life Languages, the Kendall's personality-based ministry. She saw value in their teachings and believed their insights could help marriages and relationships thrive. She had no idea that their methods went far beyond coaching. They were shaping narratives, controlling people, and manipulating power dynamics. When Melanie and her husband Greg began seeking counsel for their marriage, things took a dark turn. Under Fred Kendall's influence, Greg started exerting increasing control over their finances. What began as financial leadership quickly morphed into domination. He began making unilateral decisions, dismissing Melanie's concerns, and weaponizing money to exert power over her. Worse, Fred himself exhibited the same behaviors in his marriage, dictating what his wife could eat, dismissing her opinions, and maintaining a household steeped in fear and control. Melanie recalls a terrifying moment when Fred, in a fit of rage, physically intimidated her, leaving her shaken and fearful. The man she once saw as a spiritual guide now seemed more like a tyrant masquerading as a mentor. Adding to betrayal, Melanie discovered that the Kendalls were not only misusing their position in counseling, but also violating confidentiality. Personal details shared in supposed confidence were relayed directly to Joni Lamb, turning deeply personal struggles into workplace gossip. The very people who were supposed to offer support were, instead, weaponizing information against her. When she realized what was happening, Melanie sought accountability. But instead of justice, she faced exile. Joni Lamb, whom she had considered a friend and mentor, abruptly cut her off. No explanation, no discussion, just silence. She was erased, as if she had never existed. What made Melanie's story even more disturbing was the systemic nature of this abuse. She wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. This wasn't just about a few bad leaders. It was about a culture that enabled and protected them. The Bible warns us about wolves in sheep's clothing, leaders who appear righteous but whose actions reveal their corruption. Matthew 7 verse 15 states, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing but inwardly are ravenous wolves." This verse perfectly encapsulates what Melanie encountered. The Kendalls and Joni Lamb presented themselves as beacons of faith, yet their actions contradicted the very gospel they claimed to uphold. Spiritual abuse, especially in Christian communities, is nothing new. Jesus himself condemned religious leaders who burdened others with heavy loads, but refused to lift a finger to help. Luke 11, verse 46. The Pharisees misused their authority for personal gain, much like the Kendalls and Joni Lamb seemed to do. They positioned themselves as moral guides while privately enabling control, manipulation, and secrecy. Ephesians 5, verse 11 urges believers to expose darkness. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Melanie's testimony is an act of obedience to this call. By speaking out, she is not only seeking justice for herself, but warning others who might fall into the same trap. The Bible is clear. Leaders are held to a higher standard. James 3 verse 1 states, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." Those in positions of spiritual influence must be held accountable for the harm they cause. Melanie's story is not just about exposing abuse. It's about reclaiming her voice and helping others do the same. For too long, Christian communities have shied away from discussing these uncomfortable truths, fearing it will tarnish the church's reputation. But silence is what allows abuse to thrive. Religious authority should never be a tool for control. True faith liberates. It does not enslave. Jesus came to set the captives free, not to place them under the bondage of manipulative leaders. Luke 4, verse 18. If you or someone you know is facing spiritual or emotional abuse in a faith-based setting, take courage in knowing that God sees and hears your cries. Psalm 34, verse 18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." You are not alone, and you do not have to suffer in silence. Melanie's journey is one of pain, but also of strength. By stepping forward, she is challenging a corrupt system and offering hope to others trapped in similar cycles of abuse. The church must do better. Christian media ministries must do better. And it starts with listening, believing, and standing against injustice. Let her testimony serve as a warning, a call to action, and most importantly, a beacon of hope for those seeking freedom from spiritual oppression.